When you're looking at a 17-inch laptop, the first thing that pops into your head is usually the fear of ending up with a massive slab that's either a power-draining monster or a piece of hardware that can't keep up when you finally need it. That hesitation is real, especially if you've been burned before by a big screen, low-end specs combo that turned out to be a paperweight for any decent game or multitasking session. So today, I'm going to walk through the HP 17.3-inch model and see whether it actually delivers on the promises it makes, or if it's just another oversized notebook that looks good on paper. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about who this machine is really built for. The spec sheet lists an Intel Core i3 processor with 8 cores, 32 GB of RAM, and a 2 TB SSD. In isolation, those numbers sound impressive for a budget-oriented laptop, but the real question is how they translate into day-to-day gaming and productivity. If you're a college student or a remote worker who needs a big screen for spreadsheets, video calls, and occasional indie gaming, this could be a solid match. Think of a scenario where you have 3 tabs open: a research paper, a spreadsheet, and a video conference, and you want the extra screen real estate to keep everything visible without constantly alt-tabbing. The 32 GB of RAM makes that kind of multitasking feel fluid, and the 2 TB SSD means you won't be scrambling for storage when you start installing larger games or storing media files. On the flip side, if you're a hardcore gamer who expects ultra-high frame rates, ray tracing, or smooth performance in titles like Cyberpunk 2077 or Call of Duty: Modern Warfare, you'll probably find this machine lacking. The i3, even with 8 cores, is not a high-performance gaming chip. It's more akin to what you'd see in an office workstation. Paired with the integrated graphics that typically ship with this processor, you'll be looking at 1080p gaming at medium settings at best, and many newer titles will either choke or force you down to low settings. So the first practical strength: massive memory and storage is also its biggest limitation, because the CPU simply can't keep up with the demands of modern AAA games. Heat and fan noise are another critical factor for a laptop that you might be tempted to use for several hours straight. In our testing, the 17.3-inch chassis does a decent job of dissipating heat simply due to its size. There's more room for ventilation compared to a 15-inch counterpart. However, the fan does kick in noticeably once the CPU hits sustained loads, like when you're streaming while gaming or running a video rendering task. You'll hear a steady whir that can be a mild distraction if you're trying to focus on a storyline, but it's not as aggressive as some thin and light gaming laptops that scream under load. If you plan to use the laptop in a quiet environment, consider using headphones or an external speaker setup to mask the fan noise. Keyboard feel is often overlooked in these larger laptops, but the HP 17-inch includes a full-size numeric keypad, which is a bonus for anyone who does data entry or finance work. The keys themselves have a decent travel distance, giving you a tactile response that feels comfortable for long typing sessions. The layout isn't cramped, and the presence of the number pad means you don't have to sacrifice functionality for size. For gamers, this isn't a game-changing feature, but for writers or analysts, it's a practical perk that you won't find on many 15-inch gaming-oriented machines. Battery life is where the trade-off becomes most evident. A 17-inch screen with a powerful SSD and a high-capacity RAM draw more power than a smaller laptop, and the integrated i3 isn't exactly a battery-saving champion either. In real-world usage, let's say you're working on a document, taking notes, and watching a YouTube tutorial, the battery will get you through roughly 5 to 6 hours before you have to plug in. Throw in a gaming session, and you're looking at 2 to 3 hours tops. If you need a machine that can comfortably last an entire workday unplugged, you'll probably want to look elsewhere or keep a charger handy. Now onto the display. The HD Plus resolution on a 17.3-inch panel is a step up from basic 720p, but it's still not full HD. That means your pixel density is lower than you'd find on a 15-inch 1080p screen, which can make text and fine details appear a bit soft. For productivity tasks, the extra screen width is helpful, but you might notice the graininess when you're editing photos or watching high-resolution video. It's not a deal-breaker for most users, but if you're a visual creator who needs crisp color accuracy and sharpness, you'll likely be better off with a laptop that offers a true 1080p or higher panel. Port selection is fairly practical. You've got a USB-C port that supports data and display output, which is nice if